On our son's birthday, Ethan took him and my best friend to Iceland to watch the aurora borealis. That night, I signed the divorce agreement and left my hometown. 3 years later, a child hugged my thigh at the airport. "Mom, don't you want me and Dad anymore?" I looked at the man with slightly red eyes behind the child and said coldly, "You've got the wrong person." Hearing this, Ryan couldn't bear it any longer and burst into loud sobs. "You are Mom. You are. I didn't make a mistake." People were coming and going at the airport, and I was forced to be the center of attention like a monkey on display. Daisy, my dance troupe companion, looked around, and her expression was even more awkward than mine. It was at this moment that Ethan stepped forward. He pulled Ryan away. When he lowered his eyes, the loss of composure from just now was gone. He was as calm and indifferent as always. "Ryan, don't be naughty." Ryan's face was smeared with tears, his nose red. He turned to look at his father. "Dad. It's Mom. I found Mom." I was wearing sunglasses. Only half of my cold face was exposed, and I looked aloof. When my cold gaze fell on the two of them, Ethan didn't even dare to look directly at me. His eyes darkened. "She isn't. You've made a mistake." Ryan was stunned and froze. His gaze towards me also became shocked and uncertain. Ethan took his hand and smiled as he apologized to me. I didn't care about his apology. I casually patted the place where Ryan had just touched me. Then I turned around and got on the plane with my companions. It had been 3 years since I left. I didn't expect to meet my ex-husband and son at an airport in a foreign country. I didn't hesitate to deny it. Everyone thought that I was really mistaken for Mom by a strange child who hugged my thigh. This incident spread throughout the dance troupe. They joked about it one after another. "We've seen many crazy boyfriend fans, but it's the first time we've seen a baby fan. So we didn't expect you to have such a wide range of fans." Daisy, who had witnessed the whole dramatic incident, joked. "Don't you think that kid really looks a bit like Sue? Look at this photo." Everyone gathered around curiously. Soon, someone exclaimed, "Hey, isn't this the young master of the Ethan family?" I had just recovered from the encounter with my ex-husband when I suddenly heard these familiar words again. My eyelids twitched. Everyone's gossipy side was aroused. The person who spoke skillfully took out their phone to give everyone some background information. "Hong Kong circle, wealthy family, top-notch, air." These words drifted into my ears. Everyone exclaimed again and again. That person also dug out the photos taken by paparazzi before, comparing them with the photo of Ryan at the airport at that moment. "It's really him. Wow, Sue, look." Daisy was shocked. I forced a smile and indicated that I wasn't interested. Some people felt sorry that I had missed such a good opportunity. Others shifted their attention elsewhere. "Hey, why did the young master randomly recognize someone as his mom? Where's his biological mother?" "I don't know. I heard that the heir of the Ethan family didn't have a good relationship with his wife." The companion who was giving the background information lowered their voice. "There's news that they divorced several years ago, but it was kept under wraps and never made public." "It's probably true." "Ah? Then the kid is so pitiful, isn't he? He left his mother at such a young age." "Is he pitiful?" I thought about the many female friends around Ethan. There were plenty of people who wanted to be Ryan's mother. "He probably isn't pitiful." Ethan was a well-known playboy in the Hong Kong circle. I had known him since childhood. He had a pair of amorous peach blossom eyes that could make even a wooden block seem to be the object of his deep affection. Moreover, he was flamboyant, passionate, and dazzlingly attractive. From kindergarten to high school, none of the girls he flirted with could resist his charm. From innocent and kind-hearted female college students to hot and gorgeous actresses and models, the girls he liked and dated were of various types. The longest relationship lasted 3 months, and the shortest only 2 weeks. But Ethan just didn't like me, his childhood sweetheart. When friends asked why, Ethan replied, "Being with Tina is no different from being with my right hand." "Then why did you marry her?" "I married Ethan, of course, not because of love. It was related to the interests of wealthy families." According to Ethan, it was precisely because he knew that his marriage and love would both become pawns that others pinned high hopes on. That's why he was so bold and flirtatious. "Anyway, I'll end up marrying Tina in the end. I might as well date a few more girls before getting married." "Then you'd better be careful. What if Tina doesn't want you one day?" the friend kindly reminded him. Ethan let out a laugh with an ambiguous meaning from his throat. It seemed both certain and sarcastic. Ethan was unrestrained by nature. Even after I got engaged to him, I couldn't be the one to change him. I remember one year when he held a cruise party with several young models at Victoria Harbour and was photographed, and the pictures were posted online. His extravagant lifestyle and dissipated way of life quickly sparked heated discussions. The stocks of the Ethan family fluctuated overnight. I was forced by the pressure from the elders of both families to go and bring Ethan back. At that time, the young model in his arms saw me and was very curious. She boldly put her arm around Ethan's neck and asked in a sticky voice, "Ethan, who is she?" "My fiancé." The young model opened her eyes wide exaggeratedly. Ethan, you're getting married? She looked me up and down. Why did you choose such a fiancé? She looked so dull. I had grown up following the etiquette of wealthy families since childhood. Every move of mine seemed to be fixed with a ruler. Ethan had also said such things to me before. But I always adhered to good upbringing and grace. I told Ethan, come back with me. Before Ethan could answer, the young model in his arms spoke. Miss, didn't anyone tell you that you can't say such disappointing things when a man is having fun? I ignored this girl. Having known Ethan for so many years, I knew that there were at least 80 or 100 people like her. But without exception, many of them would never see me again after the next day. Ethan. I called his name. Ethan pinched the cheek of the young model, who pouted and looked aggrieved because she didn't get a response. What do you say? Should I go back? The young model gave me a sidelong glance and pushed a full glass of red wine in front of me. Let her drink this, and I'll let you go. Ethan didn't say anything. His gaze fell on me with a hint of a naughty smile in his eyes. This was a sign of acquiescence. Actually, my family was wealthy too. Compared with the Ethan family, we were also well matched. I had never suffered any grievances since childhood. Only because of Ethan, my dignity had been trampled on several times. I thought of what the people of the Ethan family had said when I came. I clenched my fist and then drank the glass of red wine in one gulp. Cough, cough, cough. I was choked until my eyes were red. I stared at Ethan stubbornly. I've finished drinking. Come with me. Ethan let out a laugh. Why are you so obedient? He reached out to wipe the wine stain from the corner of my mouth, but I dodged it. Ethan's action paused for a moment and then he sneered. He pushed the young model away from him. Let's go. I had dealt with many things like this. At that time, I felt like an NPC following a plot. Later, after getting divorced, I suddenly broke free from the plot. It was as if a drowning person had grasped a piece of driftwood and gained a new life. I thought Ethan should feel the same way. Without a dull and rigid person like me by his side to restrain him, he should be living a good life. I quickly put the encounter with Ethan behind me. However, the people in the dance troupe, probably because their training days were too boring, finally caught a fresh piece of gossip and focused all their attention on it. One day, the troupe leader suddenly brought a group of people to visit the Grand Theater. Ethan was surrounded by everyone like a star. The people in the dance troupe recognized him immediately as the center of the gossip in recent days. They excitedly pushed and shoved each other. The troupe leader introduced in English, "This is our rehearsal room. These are all the members of our dance troupe. This is our principal dancer, Tina. She's Chinese." Ethan was wearing a suit and tie, looking imposing. There was no sign of the loss of composure on the day of our reunion or his past flamboyance. His peach blossom eyes had become calm and imposing after years of ups and downs in the business world. With just one glance, I looked away and nodded indifferently. I didn't want to have too much contact with Ethan. I also hoped that he would ignore me as he did at the airport that day. Unexpectedly, Ethan's naughty and smiling voice came. I know. She's my wife. Before Ethan came to the dance troupe, everyone had been very curious about him. But the question they were most curious about was, who on earth is Ethan's wife? Unlike Ethan, I rarely appeared in the media's gossip news. Even when I got married and had a child, I remained unknown. My identity that had been hidden for years was revealed because of Ethan's seemingly joking words, and all my efforts were in vain. Everyone didn't expect that the person they had been gossiping about a few days ago was right beside them. Their gazes towards me became awkward and at a loss. Because before Ethan spoke, they were very excited. Sue, he's been looking at you all the time. They thought it was the beginning of a romance. They didn't expect it to be a signal of a reunion. After leaving the dance troupe, I saw Ethan downstairs in my apartment building. He was standing beside a black car, as if he was about to blend into the night. Seeing me, Ethan's eyes lit up, and he smiled and called me Tina. He called me in such an affectionate and natural way. It was as if the 3 years of separation were just an illusion. I didn't stop walking. He reached out to pull me. Slap. Get lost. I said coldly. Ethan's head turned to one side due to the force, surprise flashing across his eyes, but his smile didn't fade. Tina has a temper now. She even knows how to hit people. I stared at him coldly. But Ethan asked me, are you still angry? Come back with me, Tina. I miss you. His voice suddenly became helpless and gentle. You see, he was like this. He was naughty and dissolute. Obviously, he was the one who had done wrong. But it seemed that I was the one being unreasonable. Ethan, we're already divorced. I reminded him. I didn't sign the papers. So it doesn't count as a divorce. He seemed to be acting shamelessly. I took a deep breath. It doesn't matter. Anyway, we've been separated for 2 years. I can file for divorce through legal channels. Only then did Ethan's expression change. His eyes were dark and gloomy. Tina, does it have to be like this? I gave him a cold smile and turned to leave. I tried my best to ignore Ethan's existence. But in the next few days, he showed up rather frequently. Either he made up an excuse to watch the performances of my dance troupe or he waited for me to get off work at the theater entrance. It was so annoying. When we were married before, he was often away from home. He wouldn't even report to me when he went on business trips. He would just fly away with a favorite mistress. Now Ethan was actually so idle. He took pleasure in harassing me, his ex-wife. What was he up to? I didn't want to pay attention to Ethan. But there was always someone bringing news about him to me. When Daisy came over hesitantly, I was concentrating on preparing for the rehearsal of the next performance. Sue, who is this Fiona? What's her relationship with President Ethan? Perhaps I hadn't heard this name for a long time. I was stunned for a moment. Daisy took out her mobile phone. Only then did I understand what was going on. Yesterday, Ethan didn't show up as usual. He went to an auction and bought a bracelet at a sky-high price of 100 million yuan. After the media photographed and reported it, netizens began to guess who the bracelet was for. Fiona, a popular young actress in China, posted a Weibo post after that. It seemed to be a response from a distance, hinting that the bracelet was given to her by Ethan. Gossipy people then went to dig into Fiona's affairs. They found that as a top young actress nowadays, Fiona had the support of Ethan's family and seemed to have an unusual relationship with Ethan, because there had been media photos of Fiona traveling and having fun with Ethan's father and son. The latter part of the title was still, like a family of three. Since the people in the dance troupe learned about my identity, combined with the rumors they had heard before, they couldn't help but feel worried and pity for me. After the training, I saw Ethan waiting for me at the entrance of the theater again. He was always self-centered. Even though he had hit a few snags before, when we met again, he still behaved in his own way. Now, rumors and gossip about him and Fiona were flying all over the country. However, he seemed to be completely unaware of it. I've reserved a table at the French restaurant you wanted to go to. Let's go together. After finding me, Ethan easily got to know my living habits over the years. This kind of trick was always what he used to coax his girlfriends or his little, caged birds. During the meal, Ethan handed me a box. I found a little trinket yesterday and thought it would suit you. I opened it and found that it was the bracelet from the auction. So this thing wasn't for Fiona, I said sarcastically. Hearing that name, Ethan frowned slightly. She doesn't deserve it. There seemed to be disgust in his tone. I found it funny. Didn't you like her quite a lot before? This was the first time that Ethan and I had sat down and chatted calmly since we met again. The name Fiona also appeared between Ethan and me for the first time in so many years. When we first got married, I actually planned to treat Ethan with respect and courtesy. I knew he was affectionate and wanted to give a home to girls all over the world. So I had found my own position early on. As long as Ethan didn't bring those people in front of me to be an eyesore, I actually wouldn't say anything. Until he got involved with Fiona. Fiona was my best friend. From junior high school to university, we were the best of friends. She knew all my girlish thoughts and secrets. When I got married, she was my bridesmaid. After I gave birth to a child, she was the child's godmother. But in the end, she betrayed me with Ethan. On Ryan's second birthday, Fiona came to celebrate his birthday. "Oh baby Ryan, godmother wants to give you a hug." She held Ryan in her arms, and during the rubbing, fresh and ambiguous hickey marks on her neck and an expensive necklace were revealed. I was a bit surprised. "Fiona, have you got a boyfriend?" Fiona looked shy and nodded. "Who is it? Why haven't I heard you mention it?" "Well, it hasn't been made public yet," Fiona said. At that time, she had already entered the entertainment industry and was quite famous. I knew that as a star, a relationship might affect her career development. So although I was surprised, I didn't ask too many questions. I was even genuinely happy for Fiona for finding someone she liked. "Bring him out to meet us when you have time," I said. Just as I finished speaking, Ethan came in late. "What are you talking about? You seem so happy." That year, Ethan was 26 years old. He had shed the wildness and recklessness of his youth and was looking more and more like the heir of the Ethan family. He settled down and returned to the family. Occasionally, he went in and out with me, and the media reported that he had turned over a new leaf. "Fiona has got a boyfriend," I said. "Although I can't be the bridesmaid for my best friend again, we can let Ryan be the flower boy. What do you think?" Ethan smiled faintly without saying a word and took Ryan from Fiona's arms. Fiona also smiled. I thought both of them agreed to my proposal. Looking back now, I just felt it was ironic. After Fiona's career steadily rose, there were quite a number of anti-fans who said she got resources through connections. I was a loyal fan of Fiona as her good friend. I would use a small account to refute those negative comments for her. Afterwards, for fear that she would be sad after seeing the bad comments, I comforted her all night. "Those people actually said you have a backer. How clever of them. How did they know that your biggest backer is me?" I joked. I didn't hear Fiona's response for a long time and couldn't help but feel a bit worried. "Fiona. There was a low laugh from the other end of the phone. There was a trace of indescribable panting mixed with the joy. Thank you, Tina. I'm okay. Although I was surprised, I still finished what I wanted to say. That's good. Don't be sad. I'm not sad. My boyfriend is comforting me. Ah. Only then did I understand what that strange panting sound I had just heard was. My face couldn't help but turn red. Let's stop chatting. Take care. If you need help, I'll ask Ethan's public relations team to step in. Okay? The phone was hung up with a snap. Not long after that, Fiona's negative hot search topics were taken down. A year later, Fiona became a first-line young actress with a hit drama. The drama won an award, and the sponsor was Ethan's family. I made an excuse that I wanted to witness an important happy moment in my good friend's life and asked Ethan for a spot as an award presenter. On the stage, I hugged her and the trophy. Congratulations. Has your boyfriend come? Fiona hugged me with a mysterious smile. He's here. He's sitting down there. After getting off the stage, I looked around. What are you looking for? Ethan asked me. Fiona's boyfriend. I heard that he's also here at the scene today. Ethan's action of covering my legs with his suit paused. Hearing this, he scratched the tip of my nose. Don't be so curious. Indeed, I shouldn't have been so curious. I had never seen Fiona's boyfriend. I just knew that such a person existed from her moments showing the gifts given by her boyfriend. Until Fiona's birthday, I called her to ask how she wanted to celebrate. Sorry, honey. I'll be filming that day. I'm afraid I can't make an appointment with you. Okay? I hung up the phone disappointedly. Immediately after that, I received a message from Ethan saying that he was going on a business trip, and the child had been taken back to the old house of the Ethan family before that. Out of boredom, I decided to give Fiona a surprise and add some impetus to our friendship of more than 10 years. On that night, I came to the apartment where Fiona took a break after filming. It was a quiet and dark space. Two figures at the entrance were entwined and kissing, with ambiguous panting sounds. I bought new lingerie. I'll show it to you later. Slut. It was Fiona and Ethan. 3 days later, I got on the plane back to China. Ethan covered me with a blanket. He told me that the media had been arranged to take pictures at the airport. Seeing that I looked cold, he reached out and held my hand tightly. Tina, you should smile. 3 days ago, Ethan had clearly expressed his purpose. He hoped that I could return to China. In these 3 years, I've claimed to the public that you were studying further. But Tina, you can't always stay out of sight. Those paparazzi reporters were really boring. Over the years, they had written countless news stories about the breakdown of my relationship with Ethan. Ethan couldn't suppress them all. Why suppress them? Isn't it the truth? I sneered. Next month is Ryan's birthday. He's old enough to understand things now. I don't want him to grow up in an incomplete family. You can marry a new wife, and he can have a new mother. Whether it was his little, caged bird or Fiona, I didn't care at all. Ethan's eyes trembled slightly. He lowered his eyes to avoid my gaze. You're different from them. Those were his exact words. I frowned deeply. I didn't want to go back to China, but Ethan always had his ways. I know you like the dance troupe here. When you go back to China, you can still dance. You can even take those people in the dance troupe back with you. But he threatened me with the jobs of my dance troupe companions. I slapped him in the face. Ethan, you're disgusting. Ethan smiled. Tina, don't hurt your hand. Then he begged, come back with me, Tina. I finally understood that he was determined to succeed this time. My fingertips turned white from being pinched by me. I compromised. I can go back to China, but I have a requirement. Tell me. If you just need a stable marriage as a decoration for the Ethan family's reputation, I can maintain the relationship with you through an agreement. When the time comes, you sign it, and we get divorced. We don't have to announce it to the public. Ethan stared at me fixedly. What if I don't want to? His voice sounded difficult because of the slowness. I looked at him coldly and raised my left wrist. Then I can choose to run away or choose to die. Seeing the deep and unforgettable scar, Ethan's face turned pale instantly, and there was a sudden look of shock and pain in his eyes. Ethan, there are 365 days in a year. You can't watch me all the time. Ethan compromised. After getting off the plane, he hugged me and walked through the carefully arranged passage. On the day I returned to China, the picture of him and me cuddling up to each other appeared on the front page of the headlines. Ethan seemed quite satisfied. On the way home, he enthusiastically tried to start conversations. Everything at home has been tidied up. Nothing has changed. There are many tulips planted in the garden. Didn't you like them very much before? He talked too much and it annoyed me. Seeing that I closed my eyes and frowned, he stopped abruptly and carefully pulled the blanket on me up a little. When I got home, I saw Ryan. He was dressed neatly and formally, being held by the butler, and standing nervously in front of the carved iron gate. Seeing me getting out of the car, his black grape-like eyes lit up. Mom! Before I knew it, he hugged my thigh again. He looked up at me with bright eyes. You're finally back. This time, I finally looked down at him seriously. When I left, he was only 4 years old. Now he had grown a bit taller and looked like a young teenager. He was the child I gave birth to after 10 months of pregnancy. I should have loved him very much. But now, I restrained my impulse to hug him and casually patted his head. Grown a bit taller, Ryan. Even though it was the simplest action, Ryan was still excited and happy. I've prepared a gift for you, Mom. He took out a small gift box, but I didn't take it. Ryan's originally expectant smiling face gradually froze. His bright eyes also became uneasy and timid. Ethan stepped in to ease the situation. Ryan, Mom just got back and is tired. Let Mom go and rest first. Oh, okay. The house was indeed just as Ethan had said, with hardly any changes. It was the same as when I left. The vase in the living room hadn't been changed, and the little ornaments on the table were still there. I remembered that Ethan used to dislike these things, thinking they were childish and didn't match his taste. After I left, Ethan surprisingly didn't replace these things. Later, when I entered the master bedroom, I saw the wedding photo that I had smashed was now hanging intact on the wall. I was stunned for a moment. Ethan beside me gradually became nervous. He quietly clenched his fists, thinking that I would say something. But I didn't say a word. Then the expectation in his eyes turned into disappointment. Worried that I wouldn't get used to it after coming back, Ethan personally told the housekeeper about the changes in my tastes and habits over the years. Ryan, who was small, stood aside, looking at me expectantly and nervously. I adjusted to the time difference for a while. When I woke up, it was already noon the next day. There were faint voices of conversation coming from downstairs. It was none other than Fiona. It was only the second day since I returned to the country, and she had already come to find me. She was sitting calmly on the sofa in the living room, chatting with the housekeeper. She was so compliant that it seemed as if she were the mistress of this house. Hearing the sound of footsteps, she turned her head. Her beautiful eyes first examined me for a few seconds, and then she put on a smile. Tina, you're back? I ignored Fiona. The housekeeper who had just been talking to her came up respectfully. Madam, you're awake? I'll have someone arrange the meal right away. Fiona was stunned when I ignored her. Then she walked up to me as if nothing had happened. Tina. Her gaze lingered on my wrist for a second. I was wearing the bracelet that Ethan had bought for me. The reporters saw it yesterday too. Some gossipy entertainment reporters even gave it a special close-up. They put the photo of me wearing the bracelet together with Fiona's rather suggestive Weibo post. In the article, they fully expressed their doubts and confusion about Fiona's Weibo post. Netizens quickly focused on Fiona. Didn't they say that this bracelet was bought by the president of Ethan's family group for a certain young actress? Why is it on someone else's wrist? Ha ha ha, someone must be used to seeking attention. She's just an actress, yet she still wants to get involved with capital. Hot fact, Fiona and the wife of the president of Ethan's family group used to be good friends. Cold fact, Fiona likes the president of Ethan's family group. Wow. Is it true? How shameless. She's even trying to steal her friend's husband. This incident caused a stir on Weibo that day. Fiona's fans couldn't even defend her, so they simply started arguing with others online. Which eye of yours saw that our Fiona said the bracelet was bought for her? I'm fed up with you netizens who take things out of context. It's because of you that the online environment is so chaotic. What do you mean by stealing a friend's husband? Who doesn't know that our Fiona is the godmother of the young master of Ethan's family? Even a good relationship can be made up by you guys. I'm really fed up with you. Seeing that the topic was getting hotter and hotter, Fiona couldn't hold back anymore and posted another Weibo. Fiona V, I didn't expect that everyone would misunderstand like this. I'm really sorry for taking up public resources. However, it seemed that few people paid attention to her statement. Most netizens even scolded her, saying that she shouldn't claim something that wasn't hers. Although I couldn't see what Fiona looked like at that time, based on my understanding of her, Fiona definitely didn't have a good rest last night. It was also hard on her that she showed up at my place early this morning. I ate my breakfast slowly. Fiona still had a smile on her face. Tina, we haven't seen each other for 3 years. You're still as beautiful as before. Actually, I quite admired Fiona. After what had happened, she could still pretend that nothing had happened and stand in front of me to exchange greetings. Really? But you've become more and more annoying. Fiona's smile froze again, but she quickly adjusted herself. With tears in her eyes, she looked at me apologetically. 3 years have passed. Are you still blaming? Ah. Before she could finish her words, she let out a scream. The milk dripped down her face and wet her clothes. Fiona looked at me in disbelief and shock. Could you please stop talking? I feel sick. There was a look of hatred in Fiona's eyes. I glanced at her coldly and looked at the housekeeper beside me. Has the visitor system in the villa become so lax? Can anyone just come in? The housekeeper pursed his lips and didn't dare to answer. I became even more irritable. Tell her to get out. I don't even have the mood to eat breakfast anymore. Yes. The housekeeper walked up to Fiona. Miss Fiona, please. Tina. Why do you make me leave? Fiona couldn't maintain her dignity as a big star anymore and angrily spoke up. How ridiculous. This was my home. I'm the mistress here. Do I need a reason to ask someone to leave? I finally looked at Fiona directly. If you don't leave, should I? Then my gaze shifted behind her. Ethan, what do you think? Fiona's face changed, and she quickly turned around. President Ethan, I'm not. But seeing the empty gate behind her, her words stopped abruptly. Then she turned her head and glared at me angrily. Are you playing tricks on me? I couldn't help but laugh sarcastically. Fiona became even angrier. Her face seemed to be distorted. I got up from the dining table and walked upstairs. While asking the housekeeper to bring me another breakfast later, I also told him. Throw away the carpet and the sofa that she just touched. I think they're dirty. Yes. Behind me, Fiona's eyes seemed to be able to pierce through me. Who's afraid? Anyway, I came back this time to make her life a living hell. Fiona left in humiliation after being insulted. In the afternoon of the same day, Ethan heard about what had happened in the morning, but when he came back and saw the replaced sofa and carpet, he didn't ask a single question. He just stopped me when I was about to enter the room and explained. I didn't know she would come over. Before you left, Ryan kept crying, and she helped to comfort him, so that's why. I listlessly pushed his hand away. You don't need to explain so much to me. It's not 3 years ago anymore. I don't care about these things. Ethan's movement froze, and the blood on his face disappeared in an instant. After a while, he fled in embarrassment. A few days later, Ryan came to find me. He peeked at me several times from behind the pillars in the garden. But he still didn't have the courage to walk up to me. Actually, this situation had been going on for several days. I had noticed it from the beginning. Today, I finally couldn't help it. I put down the book in my hand and turned to look at him. What's the matter? Ryan looked around. Making sure that I was talking to him, he then walked over carefully. Mom, I replied with silence. Ryan summoned up his courage. Mom, can you make a cake with me? I looked at him in confusion. Ryan, for this year's birthday cake, I want to make it with you and Dad. His birthday was next week. The cake for that day had already been designed and was being made by a world-class top cake maker. After thinking about it, I didn't reject him. Okay. When Ethan came back in the afternoon, Ryan and I were whipping cream in the kitchen. There was a pastry chef beside us giving instructions. Ryan puffed up his little face and stared at the dough in his hands very seriously. What are you doing? Ethan asked. The servant answered for us. As soon as the answer was given, Ryan called him. Dad, come and help me bake the cake quickly. Ethan was slightly stunned and subconsciously looked at me. Seeing that I lowered my eyes and didn't object with silence, his voice became a bit happier. Okay. It was already 4 o'clock in the afternoon when we finished. The pastry chef looked at the finished cake. Okay, now please, the 3 of you, decorate the cake together for the final touch. Ryan picked up a piping bag. I held his little hand. He turned his head, looked at me with bright eyes, and then took a look at Ethan behind me. Ethan didn't say anything and tentatively reached out to hold my hand. Seeing that I didn't reject him, he held it a bit tighter. The final decoration was very beautiful. Ryan was very happy. He ate 2 pieces of the cake and said that it was the sweetest cake in the world. I'll make another one on my birthday. It will definitely be super, super sweet. On Ryan's birthday this year, the Ethan family officially made a video and selected the largest LED screen in the city to display and celebrate the young master's birthday. The Ethan family also invited some business celebrities to attend. Along with them were some media reporters. Ryan had birthdays in previous years too. But it had never been so grand and luxurious. Unless Ethan did it on purpose, because this was not only Ryan's birthday. It was also the first time that our family of 3 had appeared in public in 3 years. It could be seen that he attached great importance to this birthday banquet. On Ryan's birthday, celebrities from all walks of life came one after another. Besides the invited reporters, some paparazzi also wanted to get some information, so they all squatted outside the villa and some even started live broadcasts. The popularity soared for a while. But soon, everyone noticed that Fiona wasn't invited. Isn't Fiona the godmother of the young master of Ethan's family? Why didn't she come? Could it be that she wasn't invited? Ha ha ha. Who on earth spread the rumor that Fiona is Ryan's godmother? Is it that easy to seek attention? What do you mean by seeking attention? Did you forget the photo that Miss Fiona posted 4 years ago with the father and son of Ethan's family? Yes, the 3 of them went to Iceland to watch the aurora together. Could they have gone if their relationship wasn't good? Netizens were arguing heatedly online. Fiona's fans tried to save face with "Our idol is still filming. Thanks for the invitation." But at this moment, the figure of their idol appeared at the gate of the villa. "Here she comes." I said that on the young master's birthday, as his godmother, Fiona would definitely go. The next second, Fiona's fans quickly changed their tune. When I saw Fiona, she was squatting in front of Ryan, giving him the prepared gift. "Ryan, look what I brought you." Ryan didn't know about the past. He happily accepted Fiona's gift. Fiona saw me and walked up to me with a perfectly curved smile. "Tina." She spoke in a voice that only the two of us could hear. To outsiders, it seemed that our relationship was still good. She smiled affectionately and talked to me perfectly. "I know you don't want to see me, but I'm still here. But you'll leave soon too." I smiled and responded to her. Fiona's face changed. It turned out that Ethan had seen her. Ethan's face darkened at this moment. He hadn't expected that Fiona would show up here even though she hadn't been invited. However, since it was Ryan's birthday today, he didn't lose his temper. He just gave the security guard a look, intending to have the security guard drive her away. In the past, because Fiona was my best friend, everyone in the Ethan family treated her with great respect. Who would have thought that now she would be driven out of the Ethan family in public? At the moment before being dragged away, Fiona angrily grabbed me. "Tina. I just wanted to come and celebrate Ryan's birthday today. Do you have to do this? I've watched Ryan grow up since he was a child. I really care about him too." "Really?" I stared at her. "Is your so-called care trying to take my place? You even coveted my husband back then. Who knows if you'll covet my son? So you're taking revenge on me?" Fiona looked at me resentfully. "Do you know how hard I've worked to get to where I am now? Now you've made Ethan take back my resources. Is this how you treat me?" Fiona accused me. Only then did I realize that the reason Fiona dared to come here without an invitation was that she was taking a risky gamble. Since the day she left the villa, the Ethan family had taken back the resources they had spent on her. It hadn't been long, and fans hadn't noticed anything for the time being. But people in the entertainment circle had already got wind of it. Since Fiona had come this far, of course she wouldn't let all her efforts go to waste. She took the risk and came to Ryan's birthday party. One reason was to dispel the rumors, and the other, just as netizens said, was to ride on the coattails of the event. What's so hard about it? When you wanted to enter the entertainment circle, didn't I give you all the resources? Otherwise, with your vase-like acting skills and lack of a powerful background, could you have come this far? I sneered. Looking at Fiona's embarrassed face, which was turning green and then white, I didn't mind making her even more embarrassed. "Guess why Ethan only took back your resources now? It's because I'm back. He wants me to see his sincerity, so he's waited this long to take revenge on you." "Fiona, do you think the only person you've offended is me? There's also Ethan. In his heart, I'm the most important one." I couldn't help laughing. I had to admit that I really felt a sense of revenge, and Fiona probably knew the truth. But seeing me say it so arrogantly, she could hardly hide the jealous and malicious look in her eyes. "Don't be so angry. This is just the beginning. The best is yet to come." I signaled to the security guard standing by. "What are you waiting for? Drag her out." The security guard stepped forward, each grabbing one of Fiona's arms, and directly threw her out. Of course, this scene was also live-streamed by the paparazzi at the door. In the next second, the hot search exploded. Everyone had seen how good my relationship with Fiona was and how much I had protected her in the past. Fiona's fans were also very proud that their idol was the good friend of Mrs. Ethan, and they had been quite arrogant in the Chinese entertainment industry for a while. Now it was obvious that I had broken off my friendship with Fiona. Damn. What's going on? What happened? Yeah, isn't Mrs. Ethan, Tina, good friends with Miss Fiona? She was actually driven out of the birthday party. They must have fallen out, right? Intuition tells us that this matter is not simple. It was indeed not simple. Because soon, everyone noticed that Fiona's resources were getting worse day by day. The drama she was originally filming was suddenly announced to have a cast change. Then the endorsement she had negotiated was replaced by other artists from the Ethan family. Netizens were speculating about what had happened one after another. Fiona's status in the entertainment circle dropped sharply overnight. Of course, I got all the above news through others relayed by Ethan. It seemed that he was really expressing his guilt and apology to me. And at Ryan's last birthday, the media also took pictures of Ethan taking meticulous care of me throughout the event. For a while, netizens praised us for our deep affection as a couple. What's there to be obsessed with fake celebrity couples in the entertainment circle? Look at our real couple from a wealthy family. That's right. A powerful man and a powerful woman, childhood sweethearts and a well-matched couple. Who understands the value of a prodigal son turning over a new leaf? It's a plot that only exists in novels, okay? This immediately made the stock price of the Ethan family rise a few points. Ethan seemed to like the videos posted by these marketing accounts and secretly had someone boost their popularity. I regarded these things as a joke. Seeing that Fiona was having such a hard time, I even felt a bit more favorable towards Ethan. A few days later, Ethan suddenly invited me to watch a performance together. He was a bit nervous when he asked. Seeing me nod, he finally let out a sigh of relief and smiled. However, halfway through the performance, Ethan's phone kept lighting up, then his secretary came over with a frown and whispered something in his ear. Ethan quickly darkened his face. Tina, I have something to deal with. I need to go out for a while. It was rare to see Ethan with such an ugly expression. I watched his hurried figure as he left and then took out my phone. Only then did I realize that something had really happened. Fiona posted a long text and a video online. The long text read, "Thank you all for your concern during this period. I'm sorry to take up public resources here. Regarding the matter between me and Tina that everyone on the internet has been concerned about, I want to respond here. Tina and I haven't been good friends for a long time. It all started because she suspected that I had an improper relationship with Mr. Ethan." In the text, Fiona explained her recent misfortunes as my revenge on her. In the text, she implied that I was a jealous woman. It was just that the Ethan family had tilted too many resources towards Fiona, and I thought Ethan was giving her special treatment. Mr. Ethan and I have always been partners who understand and cherish each other. Admittedly, I had some unrealistic fantasies about him, but that's not the reason for Tina to take revenge on me, because they divorced 3 years ago. Immediately after that, Fiona released a video and a photo of a divorce agreement. It was a messy space with a hospital ward as the background. The floor was in a mess. My eyes were red with hatred. Ethan, we're getting divorced. The figure with his back to the camera in the video was clearly Ethan at first glance. And that last photo was exactly the divorce agreement I signed when I left. I was a bit dazed. I rewound and watched the video several times. Until it suddenly showed, video loading failed, Ethan had taken action. Fiona's Weibo post was controlled, but he still underestimated the power of netizens. There were already some busybodies who had taken screenshots and saved them. Fiona's fans seemed to have been greatly humiliated and angrily flooded into the official Weibo account of the Ethan family. Is your boss's wife like this? You might as well close down sooner or later. Just because a female artist is developing too well and is suspected, isn't your boss's wife overly competitive among women? Why pretend to be a deeply affectionate couple after getting divorced? Does our Fiona deserve to be part of your game? Tina, you bitch. Go to hell. In the end, some crazy fans started to attack me personally. The public relations department of the Ethan family rushed out urgently overnight. But they still couldn't suppress the hot search. This matter was talked about on the internet for several days. Some people even called my mobile phone. What's more, some people dug out my previous dance troupe. Even the members of the dance troupe were affected. Sue, are you okay? Daisy didn't know the whole story, but she also came forward to clarify for me. However, as she didn't have much influence, she could only ask me worriedly in the end. It's okay. I'm sorry for getting you involved. I'll handle this matter. Actually, I wasn't okay. Since the moment I saw the video, my head had been throbbing. It didn't get any better even after I hung up the phone. Ryan looked at me uneasily and fearfully. Recently, the Ethan family was afraid that rumors would affect him, so they didn't even let him go to school. At this moment, his eyes were filled with tears as he walked towards me. Mom, did you really divorce Dad? Ryan's face really looked like Ethan's. But I always felt that he also resembled someone else. If he could have been born smoothly, I let out a cold laugh. Yes, when I went abroad back then, it was because I didn't want your dad or you. Ryan's tears immediately fell down in a long string. Why? Why? Of course, it's because I didn't love him anymore. I could hardly recall how I felt when I discovered that Ethan and Fiona were having an affair. Whenever I thought about it a little, I would tremble all over with pain. I only remembered that I felt sick in my stomach and heart at that time, accompanied by a stabbing pain. 2 streams of warm liquid flowed down my legs. Ethan's face was pale and shocked. This incident made me lose my second child. When I woke up, Ethan was by my bedside. There were dark circles under his eyes, and the stubble on his chin didn't seem to have been shaved for a long time. He looked so haggard and dejected. Tina. Seeing that I woke up, he was both surprised and flustered. But I only felt sick. I threw everything within my reach at Ethan and shouted at him, questioning him why. Why did you do this to me? Ethan stood there, not dodging or hiding, letting me vent. Finally, I said, Ethan, we're getting divorced. Ethan's eyes immediately turned red, looking at me painfully. No, Tina. After being discharged from the hospital, I moved out of the Ethan family's villa. Ethan tried to find me several times, but whenever I saw him, I only had one sentence. Sign the papers. Ethan couldn't bear to hear it anymore and finally chose to avoid it. He disappeared for more than a month and then suddenly showed up in Fiona's moments. That day was Ryan's birthday. I wanted to go home to celebrate his birthday, but I couldn't find anyone. Fiona posted a Weibo post. At this moment, I'm also the happiest person in the world. In the photo, Ryan was hugged by her and Ethan. Under the magnificent and stunning aurora, the three of them looked like a perfect family of three. That night, I left a divorce agreement and went abroad alone. For a long time abroad, I suffered from severe depression. At the most painful time, I chose to cut my wrists. One cut wasn't enough, so I made another cut on top of the first one. But I didn't succeed in dying. I was saved by the white girl next door. You've already died once. From now on, you're a brand new you. She said in broken Chinese. That winter, she accompanied me throughout the whole process. She was Daisy. Ryan didn't understand what suicide meant. He just cried his heart out again and again. And I indifferently raised my head, just in time to see Ethan, who had returned at some point, standing at the door of the room. His expression was like when we reunited at the airport that day. When he saw me, he was shocked and suddenly his eyes turned red, losing his composure. Ethan and I didn't say a word to each other. After that day, Ethan disappeared again. I heard that he was dealing with Fiona's affairs at the company. Well, he had been wholeheartedly trying to mend the broken relationship between us and carefully repairing the rift between us. However, what Fiona did made all his efforts in vain. He almost took revenge on Fiona by suppressing her. As an artist under the Ethan family, Fiona's every little weakness was in Ethan's hands. Even if there was none, Ethan would create some. Soon, all kinds of negative news about Fiona were exposed. What's more, an anonymous video completely pushed Fiona into the abyss. The video recorded countless, glorious deeds of Fiona from childhood to adulthood. At the age of 15, she got pregnant before marriage, was isolated by her classmates, and borrowed money to have an abortion. That was the first year I knew her. She was found pregnant by me and knelt down to beg me not to tell others, or else her whole life would be ruined. I felt sorry for her and lent her money. Fiona did a lot of things for me to repay me, and we became the best of friends. At the age of 18, in order to win a competition, she secretly put nails in the shoes of her competitors who were practicing dancing, causing them to fall and miss the competition. That was the third year I knew her. She said she was so lucky to win the first place in the competition. At the age of 20, she entered the entertainment industry and offered herself to the director and screenwriter for the leading female role in a drama. After that, she cried to me that she was coerced. To prevent her from being bullied in the entertainment industry, I invested a lot of resources in her. There were many, many more. At that time, Fiona pretended to be perfect and pitiful in front of me. I was blinded by her. Looking back later, I realized that I had never really seen through others. After the video was released, public opinion reversed. After learning the truth about her, those fans who had previously spoken up for her staged a series of dramas of turning against her, which was really quite a spectacle. Fiona was completely finished. The official of the Ethan family seized the opportunity to issue a statement to refute rumors, claiming that what Fiona said was pure rumor and slander, and they had already taken legal measures to safeguard their rights. Ethan reposted this statement announcement. And he wrote the caption, "Tina is my only wife." A week passed, and this spectacular drama of gossip came to an end. Fiona disappeared from the internet. The world was finally quiet until one day. Ryan was missing. At the same time, I received a call from Fiona. "Tina, I've got your son. Come to see me, and I'll let him go." Of course, I didn't go to see her. I immediately called the police. An hour later, Ryan was successfully rescued. He tightly hugged my neck and cried in fear. Fiona was arrested by the police. Endless hatred shot out from her eyes. "Tina, you won." I let go of Ryan and walked up to Fiona. I raised my hand and slapped her hard twice. It was so fast that even the police couldn't stop me. By the time they reacted, I had already grabbed Fiona's hair and pulled it hard. Fiona screamed in pain. "Fiona, those 2 slaps just now, one was for me and the other was for my son. I've never done anything to let you down, but for everything you've done, even if I cut you 10 times, I still couldn't relieve my hatred." Fiona sneered. "Tina, if it weren't for you telling my classmates that I got pregnant before marriage, how could I have been isolated? Don't think I don't know. You became friends with me just because you like to see me act like a licking dog or a servant and let you order me around. You're no different from those people. You all look down on me." I finally understood. Fiona's hatred for me had been there for a long time. She stared at me fixedly and said word by word. "To tell you the truth, Tina, actually, I slept with Ethan when you were pregnant." Fiona's smile was malicious and vengeful, as if she wanted to give me a final and fatal blow. But I just froze for a moment and then said calmly, "Believe it or not, I've never told anyone about your getting pregnant before marriage." Fiona was stunned. Ethan hired the most powerful legal team. He had only one requirement: he never wanted to see Fiona again in his life. Fiona was detained and sentenced. I heard that on the day of the trial, it was broadcast live online. She could be said to have experienced social death once. After these things were over, Ethan breathed a sigh of relief. But he still didn't dare to face me, for fear that if we stayed together for a long time, I would mention the word divorce. Later, Ryan proposed that he wanted to go to an amusement park. He had just experienced a kidnapping. To soothe his psychological trauma, I didn't refuse. Ethan pushed aside his work for a day to accompany us. However, on the way to the amusement park, a car ran a red light. To avoid it, our car crashed into the green belt. Fortunately, it wasn't too serious. I was okay. Ryan was okay too. But Ethan was not okay. He got sick. He had HIV. To prevent us from having other after effects of the car accident, the hospital arranged a series of examinations. Ethan only had a slight concussion. But then, he was diagnosed with AIDS. When the doctor informed us of this result, Ethan's parents happened to be present. Ethan's mother cried out painfully, "What a sin!" Then she couldn't catch her breath and fainted. Ethan's father was rather restrained and steady. He ordered the doctor to come up with a treatment plan as soon as possible. And I stood by the corridor of the hospital, looking through the glass at Ethan on the hospital bed, who seemed to have lost his soul and looked dispirited and numb. I walked in. Ethan was sitting against the head of the hospital bed. His originally handsome eyebrows and eyes had no luster at all at this moment. His face was as pale and fragile as could be. When he saw me, he forced a pale smile. "Tina, do you think this is what's called retribution?" Ethan received treatment. But everyone knew that it couldn't be cured. With the financial resources of the Ethan family, at most they could make his passing a bit less painful. I went back to the villa. Ryan didn't know what had happened yet. He just thought that his father was very busy. 2 months later, I received a call from Ethan's lawyer. "Hello, Mrs. Ethan. I'm Mr. Ethan's lawyer." In the ward, the lawyer took out a divorce agreement in front of Ethan and me. "This is the divorce agreement drafted by Mr. Ethan on his commission. Mrs. Ethan, after the divorce, you can own 20% of the shares under Mr. Ethan's name. In addition, for the rest of the houses, cars, stocks, funds." The lawyer read out a long list. I looked at Ethan. I hadn't seen him for 2 months, and he had become even weaker. It was really funny. Before, when I asked him for a divorce, he didn't want to. Now that he was dying, he agreed instead. I glanced at the agreement beside me. "I won't sign it." The ward fell silent. Ethan raised his eyes to look at me. "Why? Didn't you always want to divorce me?" Yes, I had indeed always wanted to escape from Ethan. But now that Ethan was dying, what was there for me to escape from? I looked at the lawyer. "Please leave first. I have something to say to him." The lawyer left, and soon only Ethan and I were left in the ward. I continued, "Do you know why I won't sign the divorce agreement? Do you think I'm reluctant to part with you? No, actually, I hope you die more than anyone else. Don't you think I would really be softened by your turning over a new leaf? How could that make up for the pain I've suffered before? Since he forced me to return to China, I had been thinking of taking revenge on him all the time. I just didn't expect that Ethan would get sick and was dying first. He was kind-hearted enough to think of divorcing me when he was dying. But who would care about just 20% of the shares? If Ethan died, I would be his rightful first-in-line heir. I could get more. Did he think that by doing something good on his deathbed, he could make me forgive him and feel guilty? No, I just wanted to stab him hard before he died. I hated Ethan. I looked into his eyes. Even if you still have the ability to take revenge on me, Ethan, as a dying man, what is there for you to be afraid of?" After I finished speaking, Ethan's gaze trembled violently. Seeing the coldness and seriousness in my eyes, he understood that I wasn't lying. Then, with difficulty, he opened his mouth, his gaze restrained yet affectionate. "Tina, I won't take revenge on you. I love you." I sneered. "Really? Love is profound because of differences. Ethan, I've known you for so many years, but I can't feel a bit of it." After that day, I never saw Ethan again. The Ethan family blocked the news to prevent fluctuations in the stock price. 2 months later, news came from the hospital. Ethan was dying. This time, there were many people in the ward, and the lawyer I met last time was also there. The lawyer read Ethan's will in front of everyone. On the hospital bed, he was already in a coma and could only maintain his vital signs by infusion and oxygen. According to Mr. Ethan's last wish before his death, he will leave 60% of his shares to Ms. Tina, and 20% will be inherited by his son Ryan. Before Ryan comes of age, Ms. Tina will take over and protect it. For the rest, I didn't expect that Ethan had actually modified his will. In the silent and gloomy space, only the lawyer's formulaic voice could be heard. And just after the lawyer finished reading, the line showing Ethan's vital signs beeped twice suddenly. Then it became a straight line. Suppressed sobs rang out. Everyone in the ward bowed their heads to pay their respects. I quietly watched as a white cloth was laid over Ethan's face. I lowered my eyes to hide my emotions. After Ethan's death, Ryan was taken back to the old house of the Ethan family by Ethan's parents to be cultivated as the next heir. He didn't want to go and clung tightly to my legs. "Mom, are you abandoning me?" He didn't understand the meaning of parting in life and death, but on the day Ethan was buried, he seemed to sense something, and now he was about to leave me again. Ryan was crying so hard that he could hardly catch his breath. I ignored the stabbing pain in my heart. Finally, I crouched down and hugged him. No. But I couldn't take him with me. Ethan's parents lost their son in their old age, and Ryan was their only hope. Staying in the Ethan family was also the best choice for him. I think that in the past 20-some years, I've played the roles of daughter and wife perfectly. Only in being a mother did I owe Ryan a lot. I will always love you, but I also want to always love myself.